Second video. Hopefully you liked the first one. Maybe you didn't. Whatever. So, this one I'm essentially going to be running over what I have in my studio, the kind of equipment that I use, things that I have on order. But before I start with all that, I'm going to tell you about the most annoying thing in my studio. It's always making ridiculous sounds that I just can't get any control over. And it kind of makes recording really hard when you want to have silence, and that is this thing right here. This is my dog, Chima. He's 2 years old. He's a Labradoodle. Hello, Chima. He's annoying as hell, but he's a very important addition to the studio. So, yeah, let's start off going through what I have. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is my guitars. I would say I'm a guitarist before anything else. It's the first instrument that I learned, and it's probably my go-to for writing songs. Yeah, if you play guitar, you know how that be. Sometimes I feel like if I start on a keyboard or a synth or something, it just gets a bit samey. My chord skills on piano are pretty limited, but hey, I can do what I need to do with it, and that's kind of how I work it. So yeah, guitar's generally where I will start, especially with this lot of songs, a lot of guitars. So firstly, let's start about my main one. So I have my Fender Telecaster. This is Mexican Tele, I believe. I've had this thing for a really long time. I feel like maybe I got this when I was 21, 22. I can't really remember. It's just the one thing that I've always had. I'll absolutely never get rid of it. Yeah, it's just been my go-to. It's got a lot of sentimental value to me. And yeah, look, it's kind of one of those things. It's probably not worth that much to anybody else. I probably couldn't resell it for that much. But to me, it's kind of worth a lot. Yeah, as I said before, I'll never get rid of this thing. So yeah, standard Mexican Telecaster. I have done some stuff to it over the years to kind of improve it a bit, giving it this whole kind of black look, which I think is way cooler. I've changed the pickups in it as well. So the first one that I have is a Mario. I think that's how you say it, maybe. Can't remember what one it is. That pickup in there. And the one here is a lace sensor blue pickup. Look, I don't know heaps about this kind of stuff, but I'll tell you the reason why I chose these, especially the lace sensor blue. And the reason for that being is because that is what Johnny Greenwood plays, and of course I want to sound like that because the guy's a goddamn genius, and Radiohead is amazing, as you can see there. So yeah, absolutely love this thing. Generally keep it in E, but over the last couple of years I have been playing a lot more in C standard. I really like playing in C standard. It gives you a more lower kind of, it's just a gnarly sound. It's really fun to play in C, even just basic stuff. It feels really good to play. So if you haven't played in C before, you play it the same as standard. I'd definitely recommend it. Works well on a lot of things. So the next one that I have is my Mason acoustic guitar. Same thing. Had this for a really long time. Maybe as long as the Telly, maybe not quite as long. Absolutely beautiful guitar, Australian company, Maton. They've been around for a long time, I believe. Really, it's pretty easy to play. Sounds really nice. I've used this on so many recordings. I've written a lot of music on this guitar. Yet again, if I can't be bothered plugging in amps and pedals, this is where I will start. Yeah, this guy here, a bit sketchy at the moment. See, what happened here was I figured that if I just kind of put an Allen key to this, I could kind of fix the action myself, because the action is a bit high on this. It's one thing I don't love about it. But turns out that is what was holding the pickup in, as it's a electric acoustic guitar. So the pickup fell out and I was like, what is going on there? What is all this rattling? Grabbed it out and stuck it onto the side. So now I can record with it and it's not moving around. So that's pretty good. Looks pretty sketchy though, not gonna lie. This thing definitely could use a service. It deserves some love, so that's something that I'll do soon. Now, the next guitar that I have, and the last one is my bass guitar. This is an Ibanez SDGR, if that means anything to you as a bass player. I don't know a whole lot about basses and what's good. This one was in my price range. I kind of just went to the music store, had a look around, and needed to get a bass, and this one is just the one that stood out, like in terms of playability. It felt really nice. It looks fine. I mean, it's a studio guitar. I'd prefer it to be in all black, but they didn't have that one, so whatever. The cool thing about this one though, it's got like really nice EQ control, sweet pickups in there as well. Now, the thing that I generally do with this and how I've figured out I like to record bass is I'll probably have the treble to about halfway, maybe, have the bass pretty much cranked, but I'll get rid of the mids pretty much completely, and that just gives you like a really nice, smooth, kind of rounded sound, which doesn't really overwhelm in the mix. I think it just kind of works well with what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, it's a pretty good bass. Look, second best to guitar. There's been a very long running joke between me and all my friends that bass players are always the duds. Obviously not true. It's a very respectable music instrument, and if you've ever seen Bellwitch play, that guy is absolutely incredible with how he plays the bass. So, but hey, it's an ongoing joke, and you've got to have a bass, so ba-bam. Thanks, Fantano. Right, now I'm going to talk about my guitar pedals. Now, I absolutely love guitar pedals, and there's a few reasons why I love guitar pedals. If you've ever used a guitar pedal, you kind of know why they're so great, but the best reason, I think, is because I'm not that great of a guitarist, and the best thing about guitar pedals is that they can cover up all of your blemishes and no one will ever know, especially when you're recording. It works out really well. I'm not like a professionally trained jazz shreddy dude, you know, so yeah, they work out pretty well for me, and you can just get lost in them for a really long time. So yeah, the more pedals the better, essentially. So the first one I'm going to talk about is one that I got maybe with the Telecaster. Maybe I got it at the same time. It was definitely very close after getting it, and it's another thing that I'll absolutely never get rid of. I've had a lot of pedals over the years. They've all kind of come and gone. You know, they've got great resale value, so they're kind of a bit of an investment, and then when you're broke and got to pay the rent or got to move or got to do something really boring like that, you can sell them off. Even though that is filled with regret. I had a really great Eventide mod factor that was heaps of fun, and I also had a Moog Freak box, which I totally regret getting rid of because they're really expensive now. So I don't think I'm going to be getting another one anytime soon, but that was a good pedal. Love all Moog, whatever you want to call it. Who cares, man? So the first one is this guy right here. This is a Boss RE20 Space Delay. If you've ever had the pleasure of playing one of these, so much fun. So much delay. Just delay forever. So many delay patterns. Just so much you can do with it. I love using the intensity. It's got really good, it's really responsive, so you can kind of crank it up and it just crescendos, and you can just cut it off really good, so that's really great. It's got reverb in there as well. You can just have it as reverb. Yeah, this thing is kind of infinite in its possibilities. It's got the tap tempo, which is very handy, especially when recording. But probably my favorite thing about this pedal, and in every song I've recorded for this sort of songs so far, it's featured at least once, so I think I'm going to keep doing that as kind of like a signature thing, is if you hold down the right side, it kind of takes the sound, pitches it up, and if you release it, it kind of lets it go in really kind of unpredictable ways, which is super fun. There's been heaps of times where I'll kind of cut off that tail end and maybe I'll sample it, kind of pitch it up underneath some vocals, something like that. So yeah, awesome pedal. Oh, another reason why I got this one, take a guess, Johnny Greenwood. He's got the original one, so yeah, I had to get this one. Next one we have is, which one next? The Electro Harmonics Metal Muff. Pretty good distortion pedal. It's pretty versatile. You can do quite a lot with this. It kind of has two different modes. So you've got just regular, or you've got the top boost right here. The top boost is really good because it adds like a really nice kind of high frequency to it, and that's really great for recording, especially if you're doing any kind of lead part, because it just kind of cuts through, which is really cool. I kind of use this in a similar way to how I set the bass. So I'll have the treble up probably about halfway. Usually have the top boost up pretty high, bass up pretty high, and I'll just cut out the mids yet again. Just really smooth sound. Gets pretty heavy, really good with palm muting. It's really clear. When you're actually playing it and just jamming, distortion up all the way is cool, really cool. But I found that having it up that high when you're recording is a bit unpredictable, a bit overwhelming. So I usually have that set to about, I don't know, 12 o'clock when I'm recording, and that still gives like a really heavy sound. So yeah, this thing's pretty cool. The next one I have is a Anima. I don't really know what brand this is. I can't read it on the top. I have a feeling it's a DIY thing. I got it off Gumtree. It was like $100. It was pretty cheap. The guy described it as just a fuzzy doom box. And as soon as I saw the description, I'm like, yeah, I have to have that. It's awesome. And it is awesome. It gives you like a really deep kind of gnarly sound. Super fun just to play around with. I am having some trouble actually recording this guy though, because it's got the texture here, which can be pretty unpredictable, but it's kind of like every time you release your fingers, it just instantly feedbacks. So I've got to kind of figure out a workaround around that, maybe record at lower volumes or something. But the tone out of this thing is really cool. Fuzzy, deep, it's fuzzy. It is a doom box, he didn't lie to me. And another cool thing, which I didn't really make this connection, one of my friends pointed it out about a month or so ago. It's called Anima, which is obviously the incredible album by Tool. And it astounds me that I didn't make that connection, because I've listened to that album countless, billions of times. It's one of my favorite albums ever. Didn't even pick up on it. That's me. Okay, next we have, this is a really new edition. Only got this about 2 weeks ago, maybe. And this is the Odd Blood Noise Endeavor Flatlight. At its core, it's a flanger phaser effect, but it does so much more than that. It's got 3 different modes. Got a little switch that you control them. Detune, resonant, echo. Echo is really good for that kind of just really straight, classic flange sound. I generally have the rate pretty low if I'm doing something like that. Works really well with distortion. But my favorite mode is the detune mode. So it kind of gives you an octave pedal as well. So it goes an octave down and can go an octave up. But the best thing about this, which does work on all 3 modes, is you have the shift function here. So let's just say if I'm using it in the octave, I can have it all the way down, which is the lowest octave underneath it. And there's a button on here called tilt. So when you hold your foot down on tilt, it shoots up and goes up in 2 octaves. So that is awesome. Works really well if you capture that with some delay or something, if you kind of capture that sweep. Yeah, really cool pedal. Really glad that I got this thing. Odd Blood Noise Endeavors, from what I can see, makes some really good stuff. And on that note, brings me to my next one, which is the Odd Blood Noise Endeavor collaboration with Data Choir Revere. The only way to describe this is it's just an absolute ambient machine. It is beautiful. Your notes will just ring out forever. Think of those really blissful moments in Sigur Rós. Probably best way I can explain this thing. Very Brian Eno. Love all that kind of stuff. And another really cool thing about this pedal as well, it's got a really nice reverse function in it. And reverse can be really hard to find in a guitar pedal. It doesn't interact immediately. There's a bit of an attack delay on there, but hey, you can still totally work with it, and it sounds really cool. So you'll definitely hear this thing over a lot of the songs. And the last one that I have, my pedal collection is actually pretty small at the moment, even though I'm talking forever. Pretty small. Last one I have is the wah pedal. It's a Dunlop Crybaby. Picked this thing up about a month ago. It's a wah. I mean, what can you say about a wah? It's really fun. The reason why I got it is because I was recording some distorted guitars and I wanted a swell, and I didn't want to automate it. I didn't just want to put on like an envelope filter or something like that. Like I wanted more real-time control, and this did that perfectly. So wahs are fine. If you're really good at shredding, then you can shred with this guy. I'm not. I just do wah. Cool. This one should be pretty quickly because I don't have a whole bunch of stuff in this realm of sound. But let's talk about my guitar amplifiers and what I'm using to record this album at the moment. So what I've got behind me is the Fender DeVille, which has got 4 speakers on it. It's a total beast. It's really heavy, so I'm not going to bring it over here. And also it's not mine. I'm just borrowing it off a friend at the moment, so thank you for that. I really love this guitar amp. I've actually borrowed it off him quite a few times over the years, and it just sounds really nice with what I'm trying to achieve. Like, for clean sound, it's beautiful. Works so well with any kind of ambient delay, modulated effect. But yeah, it's such a beast, and it's so loud. It is so loud. I live in an apartment complex, and to put it lightly, sometimes I feel like I'm living in a retirement home due to my neighbors. So every now and again, I'll get a knock on the door and be like, hey, can you please turn it down? And now I'm just like completely anxious all the time that every time I get a knock on the door, someone's going to complain about something. So that's a whole other thing. But I mean, that's that thing at like 1.5, and it goes up to 10. So it's just completely unpredictable, and it's so loud. So if I am recording with it, what I'll generally do is I'll pretty much pull my bed apart and kind of put it in the middle of my bed with the bed sides around it, and put couch cushions all over the top, throw some like blankets and stuff over it to isolate it, which works really well. But just to kind of dampen the sound, because it's just so loud, man. Which is cool. It's got to be loud. It's a guitar amp. So this one here is actually mine. This is a Fender Pro Junior 4, I think. A little tweed. A little tubey. It's just a little tube microphone. Tube amplifier. The reason why I got this thing is because it's so simple. It's so basic. Literally all it's got on there is volume and tone controls and an input. And that's perfect for me because I've had a lot of guitar amps over the years. I've had some Orange stuff, had some Marshall stuff. Never had a Vox. Always wanted a Vox. Every time I go to buy a Vox, I play around with it. I'm like, it's just not my sound. As much as I would love to own one, an AC30 is probably one of my dream amps. It just doesn't do it for me. So I don't know, if for whatever reason Fender kind of does that. So yeah, this is just a really simple, nice little amp. It's got a lot of beef to it. It can get pretty loud. I've had complaints about this one as well. I usually put this in my closet and just to isolate it, and I'll record it that way. I really love this for distorted guitars. I think doing anything with distortion on this sounds really nice, and that's kind of been my go-to for that. So yeah, generally I'll record a guitar, put in I don't really even EQ them that much, honestly. I don't really need to. Generally I'll have the ribbon microphone and a dynamic microphone kind of next to each other, and that's kind of it. I mean, obviously it depends on what I'm trying to record, but I generally don't put much EQ on it at all. Fair bit of compression, things like that, but yeah, guitar amps. Gotta be loud. Okay. If you've made it through this far, then thanks. This is kind of going a lot longer than I anticipated, but I guess there's a lot to go over. Whatever. Okay, let's talk about microphones. So the first microphone that I'm going to talk about is generally my go-to for vocals. I got this off a very good friend of mine, and the reason why I bought it off him is because when I was in one of my older bands, we were recording with him, and he would just always put me in front of this microphone, and I just loved how it sounded. I think it just worked really well to the dynamics, and I guess, I don't know what the word is, like my vocal tone, delivery, whatever you want to call it. So, and then he mentioned to me that he was selling it, and I'm like, absolutely. So I've had that ever since, and I've probably had it for about 10 years or so now, maybe. and it is the Rode NTK condenser microphone. Yeah, look, I kind of just said already why I love this thing. It's great, absolutely great for vocals. Works really nice. If you get really close to it, you can get back from it and still get a really nice kind of sound. I know that the Rode generally is a bit of a staple to a lot of people's studios. I mean, they're pretty affordable for the quality of it. I don't know the pattern, cardioid. I don't know. I know there's some words. I don't know what they mean. I don't know what this one is, but I use it a lot. I actually really like how this sounds on a guitar amplifier. I don't know what the general consensus is about condenser microphones on guitar amps. It's probably pretty common. I don't know, but whatever. I like this thing. It works really well if it's right in front of it. Works really well if it's back. Sometimes I pull it all the way at back and kind of have it a bit higher, so it kind of captures a bit of the space a bit more, especially if I'm doing something really ambient or delay heavy. I'll generally set it up that way. So yeah, good microphone. Could probably use a bit of a service or something, but it still sounds pretty good to me, so I'm just going with it. Okay, next up I have the Shure SM57. What can you really say about this microphone that hasn't been said already? Everyone who's has a home studio or has done anything to do with recording or playing live has definitely seen one of these. I really like it because it's pretty versatile. Sounds really good on acoustic guitars if you kind of have it up a bit higher on the fretboard. I really like it for vocals. Same thing with the condenser. It just works really well with my vocals. There was a bit of a gain issue that I was dealing with recently, but I figured out a workaround to that, so I'll go over that in maybe the next part. And obviously, this thing is great for guitar amps. So generally what I'll do if I'm recording a guitar is I'll kind of get the center cone of the guitar, kind of like line it up, get a flashlight in there, kind of see it, kind of get it right to the center, and that generally works pretty well, really well on clean guitars. That works really well. But something that I have been doing recently, which is a little trick that I'm sure you all know about, but I was trying to record some distorted guitars and there was just way too much high end, and it was just like, it just sounded rubbish, which is strange for this microphone. So what I kind of did was, let's just say this is the cone centerpiece here. I kind of just moved it to the left and tilted it. That gave it a lot more kind of bottom end, a lot more space, but it still sounded really heavy and deep, and there was a lot of body to it. So that's probably a technique that I'll use a lot more. I generally have this thing pretty much on the mesh of the amplifier. You want it in there nice and close. So yeah, if you don't have one of these, they're cheap and you should probably get one because you can do pretty much anything with it. Other one, which is a recent addition, which is actually the one that I'm speaking in right now, so I won't pull that out, but it is the Studio Electronics VR1 ribbon microphone. So when I started this whole thing a couple of months ago, I did a whole bunch of research on microphones, trying to figure out what exactly I needed one for. I knew that I wanted a ribbon. This one just kept popping up. It was pretty affordable as well for what it was. I just love the sound of it. It's so versatile. I'll put it on guitar amps. Works great for acoustic guitars. But I actually use it a lot for vocals, which I was surprised by. So I like it because it just really gives you like a nice flat, kind of just really clean sound. And I know this is probably really obvious to a lot of you, but having a ribbon microphone just gives it this really like dark vintage kind of warm texture, and pretty much ever since I got this I've been using it on everything, and it's kind of like it's really shaping a lot of the dynamics and the overall sound of these songs that I'm working at. So it's become a bit of a staple. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think it was a really wise choice to get it. So yeah, if you're looking at a affordable, like sturdy ribbon microphone that's pretty cheap, yeah, look into that one. So the other ones that I have are my kind of B-side Oh, the visual stopped. Oh well, you'll have to look at Chrome now. Um, my B-side kind of dud microphones that I've kind of collected over the years. So the first one I have is a Samson. It's just like a dynamic, I think. I never use it. It's essentially like, to me, it's like a karaoke microphone. I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar to like an SM58 or something, but maybe I'll plug it in and give it another go. But yeah, it's pretty much just been sitting in the case for a long time. This guy here is a legacy condenser microphone. I think this is maybe the first microphone that I ever bought. I'm not sure if it works at the moment. I haven't used it for a really long time. I only recently found the power supply for it. So maybe I'll give it another go. Like, it looks cool. It's a cool looking microphone. Yeah, I'll plug it in, see how it goes. And the last one that I have is a Legacy Axis 90 ribbon microphone. So unfortunately this thing is broken. I don't know how to fix it. It's already broken, so I could give it a go. I mean, I can't really make it that much worse. But I remember this being pretty good. It would be great to have a second ribbon microphone, especially for putting that on guitar amps. Great for vocals. Having two ribbon microphones on an acoustic guitar would be really nice. Like, so much body. I think that's a good thing about ribbon microphones, which I'm sure everybody knows. It just gives like a body that I was just missing, especially with the SM57 by itself on a guitar amplifier. It was just missing so much. But usually I'll pair these two up together on a guitar amp, and that works pretty well. You can kind of blend the signals in pretty good. I don't have any noticeable phasing issues, but at the same time, I wouldn't know if I did, because like, I get the principles of that, but I don't really know how to fix it. And look, if it sounds good, then I'm just going to use that. So yeah, they're my microphones. You need microphones. They're very important for this stuff. Okay, now I'm going to go over my keyboard, synthesizers, and MIDI controllers. I have quite a few little bits of pieces of this kind of equipment, so this one could drag on. Hopefully I won't, just talk forever. I'll try not to, but hey, if you've come this far, may as well keep on going, yeah? So, first up, we have the Native Instruments Complete Control A49, pretty standard MIDI controller. It's got pretty nice keys, semi-weighted. It's pretty nice to play. Super affordable for what you get. I'm a huge fan of Native Instruments and a lot of the stuff that they do. One of the reasons being is all of the software that comes with this thing. So many VSTs, synths. It's pretty limitless, and obviously you can add expansions and stuff to them as well. The cool thing about using this with Native Instruments software from Complete Control is because everything is just automatically assigned, all the parameters, so it's really easy to tweak envelopes and things like that without having to do any MIDI mapping, any of that kind of nonsense, so that's cool. It's got mod wheel and the other thing, the pitchy, control-y guy, transpose, whatever you call it. Other transpose functions on the top, which you can MIDI map to things in Ableton. I don't really use them for that. I have other, other equipment that I use for that. But yeah, look, if you're looking for like a good quality, reasonably priced MIDI controller keyboard that comes with a lot right out of the box, this is a pretty good option to go. Okay, next up we have pretty much the oldest thing in my collection, and that is a Casio Tone 501. Yeah, here we go. I think this is from like the 80s or something maybe. I actually got this off a friend a long time ago. I think I traded him a guitar, like an acoustic guitar for it. So yeah, unfortunately, like a lot of stuff in my studio, this doesn't work. I'm sure it could be easily fixed. But if I remember correctly, this thing sounds really good for, it's got like a really nice inbuilt organ sound. I think it's got like a little drum machine kind of patterny thing in there. Might get some cool kind of analog stuff out of it. So probably worth looking into getting that one fixed. So yeah, that one's kind of cool. But I mean, I'm not going to get rid of it. It just looks cool. So I'll fix it eventually. Next up. Took me a while to get it. We have the Arturia key step. This is a pretty small MIDI controller, but super versatile. There's a lot of functionality you can get out of this thing. It's got the built-in arpeggiator, sequencer as well. These kind of touch mod, pitch controls, which I think is really cool. Feels nice to play. The keys are small, but I got that for a specific reason. The best thing about this as well is all of the outputs that you get, all the MIDI, CV, out, gate, all that kind of stuff. So that's really great. And the reason why I got this is for the next thing that I'll show you, which is the Behringer Model D. So, this thing is great. I absolutely love it. But there's a caveat with that. This is essentially a gateway drug. And what I mean by that is, ever since I've got this thing, I've loved every second of it. I started patching things up. I was like, yeah, this is really fun. But it's like, I need more knobs. I want more sound out of this thing. So then I started going down the modular rabbit hole, and I've been pretty deep in the modular rabbit hole for about a month or so now. I've just been, obsessively watching pretty much every video on YouTube about modular synthesis. And so this thing, it's a gateway drug. That's all that you can say about it. So having said that, I finally pulled the trigger and I have a Eurorack system on its way. So I'll go over that and cover that a bit more when it arrives. I'll have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm sure that I'll break it. My dog will hate the sounds. He's already hated watching the videos. My girlfriend's going to hate the sounds. She keeps waking up at like 3 a.m. because I'm watching modular synth videos on YouTube, and she wakes up to like just ridiculous frequencies and beat bops, blah, blah, blah. But I love it. Can't wait. Another cool reason why I want to get it, which is the plan, is to pretty much just process any audio signal through it. So I got some modules that I can just plug a guitar straight through. I can resample all of my vocals. I can put drum loops through it. Actually, like, get that really deep kind of warm analog sound, which is why I wanted this in the first place. Because don't get me wrong, I love digital equipment and I love VSTs, but you get to a point where it just sounds hollow. It just doesn't sound right. It's kind of the same thing with like the ribbon microphone. There's just like a depth and a body that's missing, and I just wanted something. Initially I got this because I just need a synth to cover my bass notes, and this thing it's perfect for that. So look, I know ethically there's a debate around Behringer. You can kind of have your own opinions on that. Yeah, I mean, that's really up to you. And sure, I agree with a lot of the points, but at the same time, as having said that, it's putting these sorts of things into the hands of people like myself and you who, you know, have a limited budget. We can't really be going out blowing 10 grand on an original mini Moog, you know, as amazing as that would be. It's just not possible. So this thing is absolutely fantastic for an affordable gateway and just a really good quality sound. And there's actually a video on YouTube that I'd recommend watching where there's this guy, he has an original mini Moog and he lines this up to it and he patches them both in the exact same way, and they sound identical, essentially to the point where he runs it through an oscilloscope and you can see the waveforms and they're absolutely identical. So look, say what you want. I don't have 10 grand to spend on a synth, you know? And the last stuff I'll just run through really quickly is a called Chaos Pad. This isn't actually mine. I borrowed this off a friend of mine. It's pretty cool. I mean, I kind of wanted a lot more from it than what I kind of got. It's just one of those pieces of equipment that unfortunately is a bit outdated now. Having said that, I'm not a DJ, so running stuff through this, I could definitely see the advantage of that, but I don't know, if you've got Ableton, don't really need this. What else we got? Ooh. Machine Micro MK3, or is this the original one? This is the original one. The original machine micro that I've had for a long time. This works just fine. I did recently upgrade it to the machine micro MK3. So I really love this stuff, again, because it's Native Instruments and all the software that comes with it. I don't actually really use the Machine 2 software that much within Ableton, mostly because I get like latency issues and it's very CPU hungry. So essentially I've been using this as a MIDI controller, and I recently got a drum pack from Ableton website. I can't remember the brand that makes it, but they've sampled all of Thomas Harkey's drums, who is the drummer from Meshuggah. I'm a huge Meshuggah fan. So he's my guest drummer on this album. He's all over it with those samples. The cool thing about this is the response on this is absolutely incredible. As soon as you tap it, the velocity scale is ridiculous. Yeah, this thing is really fun to play with. Last thing. Is the original Ableton Push. Yet again, something else that doesn't work. I got a new MacBook not too long ago. I plugged this thing into it. It was working fine on my iMac. As soon as I plugged it in, tried to run Ableton 10 with it, just no signal. Computer is just not recognizing it. Classic software stuff, you know. As soon as something else is new, then everything else fails. So, hot tip. If you're upgrading to any new OS X, especially on a Mac, in my experience, and you're doing a lot of music production stuff, just don't upgrade. Every time you upgrade, you're going to spend about a week or two just getting stuff to work again, and it's just a waste of damn time. So it's a shame. This thing was really fun. I don't really have much use for the Push so much at the moment. Otherwise, I'd probably get a second one, like one of the new ones. But yeah, MIDI, synths, cannot wait for Eurorack. Right, so this is the last section, thankfully, because there's been a lot of talking. I'm not really used to talking this much. This is too much talking. It's kind of making me tired. It's late, I guess, not that really matters, but yeah, it's just a lot of talking, so let's power through this guy. So in this section, I'm just going to be talking more so about utility type stuff, I suppose you could call it, what I use for that. But before we do that, there's something that I forgot to include in the last section, and that is the Novation XL, what is this called? Launch control. So I pretty much use this as a mixer. So when I'm mixing, I'll generally put stuff into a group and I'll kind of automate the main control of the group through these sliders. I'll also MIDI map a lot of these sections to particular VSTs and kind of automate the effects using it that way. It's got these MIDI pads and stuff. I mean, look, honestly, there's a lot I don't know about this, but it kind of does what I got it for, so I guess that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of that stuff I was doing through the Push, but because that kind of broke itself, I had to get something to replace it. So yeah, this thing works pretty good. It's definitely really handy. Said before, I don't really use this unless I'm mixing. But yeah, really handy thing to have in there. So yeah, look into that. Okay, so another recent thing, which is something that I discovered on one of my many rabbit holes. I was talking about earlier issues with the SM57 and gain issues. So especially when I was recording vocals, I wasn't getting as much of a strong audio signal as I would have liked, and especially because the ribbon microphone is a passive ribbon microphone, it just needs more boost. It needed more gain. So I looked at a couple of different options, but what I ended up getting, and it's kind of all plugged in here because I'm running through it right now, is the Cloud Lifter CL2. So this thing is awesome. I mean, it's essentially just a box. It doesn't really do anything. But what it does do, and it does it really well, is you plug in a microphone that you're getting low gain out of, and it just automatically gives you an extra 28 dB of gain, 22, one of those two, Super clean, transparent gain. This thing's like an absolute lifesaver. Honestly, I don't really know how I could kind of go on with it anymore now. So yeah, really smart investment for me anyway. So if you're running into those sorts of issues, get one of these. There's similar stuff that you can get that does the same thing as well. There's like the Boom Dynamite SE Electronics ones, which I think might have been made specifically for the SE VR1, but I wanted something that has two inputs, so the Cloud Lifter for me kind of made sense. Was a bit more on the expensive end, but I don't know, for me it was kind of worth it. So I'm running that directly into an Audient ID4, which is on my desk right here. It's kind of like velcroed and stuck down, so I won't lift it up. But as a preamp and as an audio interface, I have absolutely no complaints with it whatsoever. Extremely affordable for what you get. It's got 2-channel ins. It's got DI, which I generally put my bass through, but I've also been putting the bass through the Cloud Lifter as well, so just give it a bit more transparency there. That's working really well. But yeah, the Audient sweet, heaps of control, sounds really good. Oh, I mentioned with the Cloud Lifter, I'm not sure about the other versions of it, but the Cloud Lifter does require phantom power through your audio interface for it to work. So when I first got it, I was like, yeah, this is absolutely going to work. Plugged it in, nothing was happening. And I was like freaking out because I just dropped like $500 on this thing or something. And I like in my, I don't know, frantic haste, I like emailed the company. I was like, hey, this thing isn't working. And they got back to me really quickly. And they're like, maybe try this, this, and this because the fail rate of the product is super low. And I was like, okay. So I kind of did a bit more troubleshooting. And what it turns out, what the issue was, is that the Audient ID4, even though it does run off USB, you can run it directly into your computer and you can still get a strong signal out of it. In order for the phantom power to work, you also need to have an external power supply plugged in, which is 12 volts. So I completely forgot that the Audient even had that because I never used it because I was always just going straight into my computer via USB. So as soon as I figured out that little snafu, it worked straight away. So yeah, now it's fully operational. It's cool, doesn't require any external power. There's no MIDI, there's no software to muck around with. You just plug it in, some mic cables, XLR cables, and you are good to go. So yeah, what else have we got? I'm just running everything through a MacBook Pro, I think 2019 edition. Yeah, that's been pretty good. I've always used Apple stuff because of my line of work. I'm a user experience designer, a graphic designer, whatever, and I've just always used Macs. So, I mean, I'm not an elitist about it. That's just been my personal preference for what I do in my workflow. Yeah, and so yeah, that's why I use it. And running through that, I have Ableton 10. I've tried them all. I've tried Cubase, I've tried Logic. Started off on GarageBand with my internal iMac microphone. But I've just stuck with Ableton, mostly because of just all the internal effects. I like the interface. I like how easy it is to use, but how also complex it can be. For me, it just works really well, and so much hardware and software MIDI stuff, you just plug it in and it just kind of works. So I mean, anything that you're not messing around with troubleshooting is a bit of a win for me, I think, because otherwise you're just down the rabbit hole again. You know how it is. Apart from that, I have my 2 speakers here, which you can't see, but they're there. They are pre-Sonos speakers. I can't remember the model of it. Maybe I have the box around somewhere, whatever. They're really good, really cheap for what they are. So I went into a store with the idea of getting 2 Mackie speakers, I believe. After my research, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go and get this. The guy had a whole wall of speakers, monitor speakers, like powered monitor speakers set up. And he's like, yeah, that one's a really good choice, but give this guy a go. This is a new one that we've got. They're really cheap because they're trying to enter the market. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm pretty skeptical. So we literally went through this whole row of speakers using a test song. The test song was actually by a band called Low off their last album, Tempest, which is an absolutely incredible album, incredible song, one of my favorite albums of that year, which might have been 2018, maybe. Anyway, it's got really deep, distorted bass synthesized through it, heaps of vocoding. So it was a really cool song to test out on. So yeah, I listened through it through this whole wall, and as soon as we got to these speakers, the pre-Sonos, whatever version they are, it was just instantly, it's like, yeah, they sound absolutely incredible. They're cheaper than what I came in here for. Super nice speakers. So if you're looking for some good powered monitor speakers, which you're going to need if you're going to be mixing, yeah, they're great for that. They've got really nice bass response, generally really flat kind of sound. So I mean, I listen to all of my music on them, so I'm used to how they sound, so I can mix on it without an issue. Yeah, couldn't really recommend them anymore. This guy right here is just a vocal reflection booth, just a pop filter. They're pretty standard stuff. Definitely need that for recording vocals, especially with the condenser. Works really well with the ribbon. And the last thing that I use, just looking around, yeah, I've covered everything. Last thing is my headphones. So these are Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro. This is actually my second pair of these that I've had over the years. The last pair, I don't know what happened. I think maybe like this part of it broke or something. And the guy was like, it's probably going to be cheaper just to get a new pair than to fix them. I really like these headphones because they're just completely flat, sound really good. I mean, you don't really mix in headphones, but for recording, I mean, I do a lot of mixing in headphones if I'm being completely honest, especially if I'm doing stuff in stereo, and these are great for that. And they're super comfortable as well because you'll have them on for a very long time. And these headphones are always my go-to headphones when a new album comes out. So one of my favorite things in life to do is if there's a new album that's coming out, I don't listen to singles. I don't listen to any material off it. Like, I want the whole album as an experience, and it's kind of just like a thing that I hold really dear. For example, when the last Radiohead album came out, I literally stayed up to 4 a.m. in the morning just refreshing iTunes before it came on, and I put these guys on, and yeah, it's just like a really true form of sound for me. I did the same thing when the new Tool album came out. I woke up super early, took my dog for a walk, put these guys on. Yeah, so I don't know, I like them for that. They're really good headphones. And look, that's it, man. That's it. It's been a long video. I think I'm probably going to be on like, 40, 50 minutes. So I apologize for that. Maybe I'll do that thing where you like cut it up and put the timestamps in there or something. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. So if you got through this far, I hope maybe you learned something. Maybe you were questioning some kind of equipment that you're looking into. I guess like the goal, if I'm going to keep doing these with these videos, is just to explain it really simply, because there's so much convoluted information out there and there's so much bias. It's so hard to like make a really good informed decision about what you actually want and what you actually need. Especially like looking into the Euro-rack world as I have been lately. Like, that's just insane, the amount of opinions that people have. Obviously budget's always going to come into setting up a studio like this, and there's always going to be new stuff. So my interpretation is maybe steer away from super low end stuff, maybe stick to the middle. I mean, obviously depending on your budget, but for me, I can get a pretty good sound out of everything that I have. Like, nothing that I have has really broken the bank to like a crazy extent or anything like that. Like I'm not, I'm just like your regular, just, pleb. I don't have money coming in out the wazoo or nothing like that. Just, so it's just a hobby that for me is worth investing in because what I get out of it is kind of worth more than anything else. I mean, for me, I want to look back in 5, 10, 20 years time and have this album or this song that I did, and it's always going to be there. Like for me, I don't really do anything with my music. I'll chuck some stuff on Bandcamp every now and again. Like I don't do live performances. I don't even really share it. Like I'll kind of send it to my friends, and maybe some people that I'm talking to at the time. But it's just like a very, very personal and kind of like secretive thing for me as well. Like I would say that 90% of people that I actually know wouldn't even know that I do this kind of stuff, because it's just not something that I kind of broadcast. As said before, it's just really personal for me. What I love about recording and production and just like the whole songwriting thing in general is kind of what I spoke about at the beginning, is like you can just take literally nothing, maybe like a chord progression or something, and just kind of just completely morph that and take that into a direction that only you can do. It's completely your sound. It's completely personal. I don't really often tend to collaborate or anything like that anymore. Like, not that I'm not open to it. It's just a very personal and private experience for me. Even when I'm recording vocals, if I'm recording vocals, I can't have anybody around. Like I won't do it if my girlfriend is here, or there's only actually been one person that I've met that I've actually, I guess, kind of trusted enough or felt safe enough with to record vocals with. So it's just like this whole experience, I guess my point is it's just very personal and private, and there's literally no right or wrong that you can do with it. Like as long as you have a waveform, an audio input, something to work with. It doesn't matter if it came out of a like cheap, crappy microphone or an expensive microphone. Like if you have anything, you can do anything with it, and it's completely yours. So yeah, I mean, I love doing this kind of stuff, and there's been many phases in my life where I haven't been doing it, and it's just like I've always felt like it's something has been missing, or I just feel a bit off, like I don't have an outlet to get stuff out. So I guess that's what's really important to me and why I do all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'll probably continue on the same kind of path that I am. Like I don't really anticipate performing live anytime soon because you need to put a band together, and that's a whole thing. I might actually release this album because it's something that I personally really believe in for myself. I don't really know the process. Maybe I'll pass it on to someone or other. Look, who knows, man, but it's not really about that. I mean, as I said before, at the end of the day, I'm going to have this thing that I invested my time and energy and like total self into, and it's just completely mine. It's completely mine, and hopefully when you do your stuff, it'll be the exact same thing. So just, I don't know. One thing that I know I'm like really on a bit of a tangent here. I was going to wrap the video up about like 10 minutes ago, but now I just kind of keep going. So, you can watch or not. But the one thing that's always really bothered me about this whole music scene, and especially people, not so much people, like when I was playing in bands and mingling with other people in bands, it's just ego, man. There's so much ego. They're not doing it because they really love what they're doing. It's just like, I want to look cool and, be seen doing this. And like, that's totally fine. Like, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But like, for me personally, there's just zero ego involved in this whatsoever. And yeah, it's just like, it's something that I've always done, and it's something that I've realized I have to do it because there's been, as I said before, there's been lots of times where I've completely ignored this side of myself, and I just feel completely off. So yeah, that's why it's important to me. And that's why, for me, investing like my money into this kind of stuff is totally worth it for me, because I get so much more out of it than any kind of price tag. But having said that, work within your budget. Just do it. It's like the most optimistic thing that you'll ever hear me say, honestly. But yeah, get that signal in. Just process the hell out of it. There's no right or wrong, man. Let's leave it at that, huh? Let's leave it at that, huh? Let's leave it at that, huh?